In this building, right here, Greek dictator Ioannis Metaxas said no to the Italians, and thus the Greco-Italian War started. But who was Ioannis Metaxas? Well, he was the leader of the 4th of August regime, which can be considered as a totalitarian state. In this video, you're going to learn more about his government. Good to have you back on the channel. I'm Stefan, I'm a Dutch history teacher. I like to cover history on location like right now. And if you find it interesting as well, consider subscribing and hit that notification bell.
After the loss of the Greco-Turkish War, known as the Catastrophe, a large population transfer took place. Turks in Greece were deported to Anatolia, and Greeks living there were deported to Greece. The resettlement of Greek refugees from Turkey imposed a major challenge for the Greek government, but it was done. The economy was repaired. In March 1924, the monarchy was abolished and the Second Hellenic Republic came into being. In 1928, the elderly retired Eleftherios Venizelos returned from Crete to unite the Greek people, and during the 1928 elections, together with smaller splinter groups, the Venizelists had captured 223 seats out of 250. Venizelos' new political period began well. Economic and social reforms were carried out. Looking at foreign policy, Venizelos accepted the geopolitical realities of the new Greek state and created diplomatic relations with other Balkan nations. Initially, Greece didn't suffer that bad from the Wall Street crash, but when in 1931 Britain left the gold standard, the Greek currency, the drachma, came under immense pressure. Combined with a series of bad harvests, the economic crisis in Greece worsened. There was a coup in 1933 and two in 1935. After this was over, Venizelos lived in exile and the monarchy was restored. This meant the end of the Second Hellenic Republic.
General Ioannis Metaxas. He established the 4th of August regime in 1936. He was a fierce anti-communist, and he used the perceived threat of communism to establish his rule. The Greek Communist Party, the KKE, saw the light of day in the mid-1920s, but had barely any success in the upcoming decade. That changed when the results of the Great Depression affected Greece. Greek communism got more followers, and under Venizelos, they already saw this as a threat and implemented anti-communist rules. Now, because of the rise of communism and the Great Depression in Greece, there were strikes and demonstrations, which led to violent clashes with the police. Ioannis Metaxas came from the army, but he hadn't worn a uniform since the First World War. His propagandists promoted him as a paternal figure, and this was miles away to Hitler or Mussolini. A British minister wrote about Metaxas the following.
General Metaxas is far from being endowed with the physical qualities necessary for success as a dictator. His short, corpulent, ill-dressed figure could never evoke popular enthusiasm. Metaxas hadn't seen any electoral success. His party of the liberal-minded, often misleadingly translated as freethinkers, did not appeal to a larger audience and won fewer seats than the communists. So how did he become a dictator in August 1936? The Greek political landscape at that time was very divided between the liberals, right-wing anti-Venizelists, and the left-wing communists. Alignments and compromises led to nothing. Greek King George II then appointed Metaxas as deputy prime minister. When, in April 1936, interim prime minister Konstantinos Demetsis died, Metaxas succeeded him despite having only 7 out of 300 seats in the chamber. He won a vote of confidence and declared a parliamentary recess. Around that time, waves of strikes occurred and people believed a communist takeover was imminent. Metaxas fueled these sentiments. The occasion and the pretext were provided when the General Confederation of Greek Workers called a 24-hour general strike for Wednesday, the 5th of August. The day before the strike was due to begin, martial law was declared, articles of the Constitution were suspended, and Parliament was dissolved. Soon afterwards, all political parties were disbanded, including Metaxas' own. The regime of the 4th of August had begun.
Now, unlike Spain, there was no Greek civil war after Metaxas rose to power in 1936. A Greek civil war would occur, but only 1 decade later. From the first day, the Greek police went to the newspaper offices and instructed them what to publish and what not to publish. Metaxas took ready-made borrowings from Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. Iconic for his totalitarianism was the National Youth Movement, the EON, which became compulsory for the Greek youth from 1938 onwards. And they had camps with political indoctrination. The Metaxas government also set up labor battalions for the workers, and they also had a variation of the Hitler salute, although it is said that Metaxas himself never gave this salute. Metaxas made no distinction between the state and the nation, and he saw it as a living organism which was built on the masses of the people. He spoke of a new state, and from 1937 he spoke of the so-called Third Greek Civilization. To students, he said the following:
I forbid any of you, male or female, to have any ideas other than those of the state. I require you not only to have the same ideas as the state, but to believe in them and to work accordingly with enthusiasm. If any of you have different ideas, he or she had better not be educated. State institutions were further strengthened. The regime set up public works to recover from the economic depression. Strikes and lockouts were illegal. An 8-hour working day was introduced. The social security system, a legacy of the Venizelos years, was extended. In the 1930s, Europe slided more and more to authoritarianism, and Greece was no exception.
Now, to put Metaxas on a par with Hitler or Mussolini is not correct, since his regime had nothing militaristic or expansionist about it. Who was expansionist was Mussolini, because he wanted Greece. And on the 28th of October 1940, the Italians handed Metaxas an ultimatum. And that happened in the house you see behind me. The Italians demanded that the Greeks should cede strategic posts to the Italians and let the Italian troops pass unhindered through the country. And here in this building, it is said that Metaxas replied with one single word, "Ochi," which is Greek for no. Most likely he didn't use the Greek word for no, as the diplomatic language of that time was French. Overnight, Metaxas became a national hero, and the Greco-Italian War started. The Italians invaded from Italian-held Albania, and Italian dictator Mussolini expected a quick victory. He was disappointed though. The Greeks, they put up a stubborn defense, and in the following month they drove the Italians back into Albania. A stalemate set in. Hitler eventually helped Mussolini in April 1941 by invading Greece from the north. By that time, Metaxas had already passed away, as he had passed away in January 1941 due to ill health. Metaxas was succeeded by Alexander Chrysis, who would eventually commit suicide when the Germans were invading his country. To all the Greek viewers, I'm wondering, how is Metaxas remembered in your country? When you were in school, what did they tell about Metaxas in history class? I'm really curious about it, so leave a comment below the video. If you like to learn about Greece during World War II, you can click right here. And if you're interested in other short-lived states, because the Metaxas regime was a short-lived state, you can click right here. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.